I can get a variety of that to the board. I mean, there's
Okay.
more information than, yes.
Is all of your food freshly prepared in each school?
Yes, as long as it has facilities. If there's kitchen facilities in each school, we don't do any brown boxed, what we call scratch cooking, will be exclusive.
You don't do scratch cooking? Or
No,
you do?
exclusive scratch cooking.
Exclusive scratch cooking, okay.
If you were into prepared meals, we'd have to actually, if that's something that the RFP required, we'd have to partner with somebody else, because we don't do any boxed meals. And even if you might have a location that's what we refer to as satellited in, where it can't be prepared on site, it would still be fresh cooked elsewhere and then brought in. Nothing is heat and eat, as we call it, or brown boxed. It's solely scratch cooked food.
Give us an example of scratch cooked food, a menu choice.
Oh, I mean, it can go all the way down from our pizzas, where we use white whole wheat crust because you have to homemade tomato sauce.
You make your own
And
sauce.
yes, and locally bought. I mean, it does depend on that food service director and what chefs we have in those. But, all the way down to buying local, the local cheese, the cheese locally.
How much of the produce and cheese, milk is bought locally?
Last year in New England alone, we only have 3 districts right now in New Hampshire, but it was over $1 million in local purchases. Sid Wainer, they're located out of New Bedford, but they distribute all around New England. 17% of our produce in New England was purchased locally, and that's a big number. I mean, 17% might not sound that big, but when you don't serve July and August, when predominantly a lot of the harvesting in New England is done, it's a pretty big number. And we're the only company, we actually have a facility in Western Mass, that we use something called flash frozen, where it takes broccoli that might be harvested in June or July, and we bring it to our facility in Western Mass in what we call flash frozen. I've said that a few times. And within seconds it goes from room temperature to, so we can actually serve local broccoli in February, January, months that you couldn't get local food. So that's another way. Without doing that, I don't even think we could be at 17% locally. So the farms are a big part of our proposals, a big part of what we do. And again, that's another extension of the curriculum in the classroom, where field trips to farms, or even having the farmers come in and give presentations to the students is very frequent and unique, and probably would be about a monthly happening in most schools.
Can you tell me the 3 districts in New Hampshire that you're working
Sure.
with?
Rochester, Jaffrey Ridge, and St. Thomas Aquinas. And then we have several in the northern corner of Massachusetts as well, and probably within 20 minutes of here.
Do you assist in writing grants, say for fresh fruits and vegetables and smoothie machines?
Yeah, great question. If you look to Play 60, and smoothie grants are something that we're in the process of doing right now. Working on a proposal in Rhode Island, so I have this number specifically. I know in the last 5 years in Rhode Island alone, $333,000 in grants and scholarship monies were given.
Do you charge a fee for working on those grants?
No. And again, that's another resource. Because every director, food service director, candidate, or director we have isn't created equal. Some are stronger on the culinary side, some are stronger on the administration side, some are stronger on the financial side. But we also have resources that write grants. That's all they do is write grants for school districts that are ours in New England. And it's looked very favorable as far as, I don't know if you've been audited or any of your districts have been audited. It's favorable when you have a company that does it for you, because you don't want any bad publicity. I mean, we've all seen it where a company, whether it's self-op or a company, takes away a meal from a student because they owe too much. No bad press, is wanted or necessary. So we're very keen to that.
Any other questions? Sharon? Dave?
I just thought of, because local farmers and purchasing locally, food service, and you in particular are probably monitored and audited, and
Yeah,
who's checking that this farmer we're buying from
right. Well,
is
that's.
giving us quality?
Right, so, happens a lot. We get to a district, there's, a local farmer or dairy farm, whatever it may be, but they're not certified. The process isn't an overnight process, as a lot of things with the states, and governments aren't, quick turnarounds. But we can work, if he's not certified, there's 3 particular certifications with farmers that they need to have. If they're not certified, we can help them get through the certification process, but it's not an overnight thing. And a lot depends on sanitation factors. So it can become costly to the farmer to get approved or involved. If he or she needs to make the proper investments or adjustments to their practices. But we will try to get them involved if you have a particular farmer locally that you want to, get involved.
Anybody else? So if you have any stuff you want, I'm sorry your program didn't work, but if you have any information that you wanted to get to us, if you emailed something to, for instance, Dr. Godomsky, then he could shoot it out to all of us.
Sure.
We'd like to see sample menus.
Yeah, that'd be,
Time
Sorry.
frame. I mean, if we decided tonight, or if we
Yeah,
decide
so-
on Labor Day, how much time do you need to get ready to take 1 or 2 or 3 schools?
sure. It all depends on what's expected on day one. We've turned over a school for January in a 2-week Christmas holiday. Obviously, it wasn't, the first day wasn't what you'd get if we had, July and August to prepare for it. But if you had, we could turn something around to at least serve every student that needs a lunch or a breakfast on the first day of school in a couple weeks time frame. The more time frame, the better. 6 weeks is rather standard. Our implementation or transition plan is 6 weeks. But like I said, we've cut that down to as short as 10 days, 2 weeks.
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
Give me an example of the average breakfast that you serve.
Okay. It depends. Meaning, if we serve it out of a cold well, we can only serve cold. Our options are limited. If we have hot options, we can do full breakfast, pancakes, sausage, and toast, egg sandwiches, egg burritos.
Made from scratch?
Made from scratch.
What is the cost for breakfast and what is the cost for lunch?
Your costs are determined by you. Whatever your school districts want to charge is what we'll charge. And, the financials would adjust accordingly. So that's totally up to you. There is minimums that the government requires. The Health Hungry Free Kid Act of 2007, I think it is, required, sorry, I don't know off the top of my head, but I think that's actually what it is, required because of the reimbursements that the government gives, your prices have to be at a minimum at least. But as long as they're at those, they're up to the boards to decide. Did you have a second question?
No,
That's it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Anybody in the audience have a question?
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Mike.
All right, thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
And so, I don't know if off the record or on the record, the next steps in your process.
What I'm going to ask the 3 individual boards,
Yep.
when we're done tonight, is to make a decision as to what they want to do and get back to
Okay.
Dr. Godomsky, and we expect something to happen fairly quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. What I'll do is I'll get some menus. Anything else you'd like to see? I'll include the presentation, just so my hard work doesn't go to waste.
Good.
Anything else other than menus?
We didn't hear what your fee was.
So, 2 things. We, more frequently, we're seeing a cost per meal fee. So it's kind of an earned fee, if you will. So the more meals we serve, the more, money we make, but the more revenue we gain. Or we can do a flat fee, where there's really no risk on us. And whether we have a great program or a bad program or something in between, our management fee would be, X. and really it's based on the financials. So all three schools together, it's the enrollment's what, roughly 1,500 or so with all three together. Ballparking it, 'cause a lot depends on your free reduced population. There's so many factors that comes into it, but roughly say it's $700,000 of revenue between the three schools. You're probably talking a management fee somewhere around $35,000.
35,000.
Yeah. But don't hold me to that. I mean, I know it's a couple. That's ballpark is roughly around 5% of the total revenue. And then too, it's all, this financially, it's all who's on board, all the way up to, the board of the superintendents, breakfast in the classroom. If you want your breakfast in the classroom participation to triple, quadruple overnight, allow breakfast in the classroom. If it's something that the teachers and the custodians, because it's whatever, contract based or just something they don't want to do, then that's, reimbursement dollars that, the program's not going to earn. So, and we could talk for hours on this, but, and time's of the essence, so. Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
very much.
All right, guys. Have a good day, and I'll get that to you tonight when I get back to my office. And sending it to the doctor, I'll get it out to the board.
Sure.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything from the audience? No? Good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bill Van Zandt. I'm the Vice President of Cafe Services. This gentleman is Chris Farrow. He's our Corporate Resource Director. Teresa was unavailable tonight. We'll see if she can come next time. Just a brief history of Cafe Services. Our corporate offices are located in Londonderry, New Hampshire. And Brian Stoner and I started this company in 1993. We currently service 52 school districts in New Hampshire and Vermont. We have about 48 corporate cafeterias with clients like Comcast, Insight, and people like that. We also do a summer camp and conference center division, which actually dovetails to our K-12 division, and it helps people work throughout the year. So there's employment opportunities through the summer as well for those who want to work. And we just recently started a elder feeding division. We have 6 of those as well. I'm going to hand it over to Chris here because he's prepared some information for you. This is a little different than our usual setup.
Thank you.
Yes. I'm sorry, Fresh Fix is our K-12 division.
Okay.
Cafe Service is the parent company.
All right.
So there's that, and then there's a corporate division, which goes under Cafe Services, and our elder feeding, which is actually Glendale.
So, as Bill said, this is a little bit different format than what we're usually used to with these presentations. A lot of times they're combined with excuse me, an actual RFP, and I know you guys are just trying to get some information to decide how you want to proceed. So really the way we approached it was I put together a little bit of a packet that answered some of the questions that we got from the SAU that they thought you might be interested in. Prepared a little information on that, gave you some menus, gave you a chance to see some of the food that we do and that kind of stuff we do, and then I guess we'll open it up for questions. So, Bill started with a little bit of the history of the company. As he said, 20 years ago, Brian Stone and Bill were working for larger companies, and they decided they wanted to go out on their own. And what really struck me when I first started looking into the company, and we talked about some of this stuff, is the reason why they decided they wanted to go out on their own. They really felt they could do things differently. They really felt that they wanted to work for a company that approached every relationship as a partnership, with clients, with employees, with students, with everyone. And 20 years, 600 employees later, we're still doing it. And it was the reason why I elected to leave a very good job with a full-service restaurant, actually, right 2 towns over, because of the way they treated me. So, to get to some of the questions that were posed, one of the biggest ones, how would contracting with your food service management company save our district's money? We didn't prepare any financials tonight because we were asked not to. We said that we were told we wanted to focus on some different things than actual numbers. So we didn't prepare any hard numbers because we really didn't have the data to do a good financial analysis in it. But
We have done it in the past, but we prepared financials about 3 years ago, when this was kind of starting to kick around a little bit. So I'm familiar with it, but there's, one of the things we want to talk about is if you choose to put an RFP out, there's a lot of choices within that RFP, and especially when it comes to employees, because that's a major concern. I'm sure you have employees that have quite a bit of tenure, and they're good people. It's just the feds have made this so difficult now with the regulations. I really don't know how self-ops are doing it on their own, because it's it's a heck of a job just preparing the food, getting the food here, getting the food on the tray, and trying to keep your costs in line, yet alone all the other regulatory issues. So, we have similar size schools. Fremont, for example, the Ellis School is similar to the size of Northwood. They're level funded programs, so you can be level funded. But it was a little premature without having the answers to the other questions and what direction you'd like to go in.
So some of the other stuff that I wrote up is really just kind of generic on how food service management companies in general can save you money, which, us being the third presenter, I'm sure you've heard plenty on how food service management companies work. We are the largest New England-based food service management company. That size helps leverage purchasing better than you can do on your own. And we also have, because we work with 125 schools throughout New Hampshire and Vermont, we bring some operational expertise, especially in school districts of this size, in this area, places like Fremont, Farmington, Wakefield, Dover, Barrington, Somersworth. All the greatest ideas from all of these places get shared with every school that we work with. And those are just a couple of the ways that we're able to achieve level funding and the other type of stuff that Bill was talking about. Would contracting food service management company mean that we no longer have control of our program was one of the other questions we kind of got with it from the administration. By USDA regulation, your school boards and your school district retain all rights to all decisions. Nobody has a right to come into your school district and tell you how you're going to do things.
It's pricing, charge policies, menu content, wellness policies, all those things.
Yeah.
We're going to act on your behalf, but those policies and procedures come from you. We'll make recommendations, but whether you decide to pursue those recommendations is entirely a board decision.
Yeah. That's the regulations. Again, like I talked about, because we approach this as a partnership, Bill's exactly right. We don't come in and tell you how you're going to do things. We don't have you say, can we do this, and just say no. We work with you on it. We figure it out. We talk to you about it. We consult you on it. Let you know, okay, what this is going to look like. I actually just earlier this week was in a meeting with one of our schools in Vermont, where they really want to go as natural as possible. We started with the breakfast menu. They want no high fructose corn syrup. They want all artificial ingredients. They want as much local as possible. They want all this, all of that. And the answer wasn't no. The answer was, okay, give me a little time to source all the items you're looking for, put together what the cost implications are and all of that. And this week we finished it up after 4 months of working with all the principals to get the menu exactly the way they wanted it, and it's being presented to the school board next week.
I have a question.
Sure.
What will the cost of that lunch be?
It's expensive.
That particular one is quite expensive. They really went for the gold, and that breakfast menu is going to average between $1.25 and $1.50 per tray just for the food. And right now their breakfast price, I think, is at $1.75. But it's going to be up to the school board to say, yeah, we like where you're going with this. Maybe we'll raise prices, or you went a little too far. They're worried about it going a little too far, so what I suggested to them was that if it doesn't work out because of the financial piece, let's phase it in and we'll bring in, they already do a lot of local, but we'll bring in some of the other products and phase out some of the other stuff. Like, a great example was turkey sausage. We started going with turkey sausage on the breakfast sandwiches because it was healthier, all of that kind of stuff. They don't make a turkey sausage that doesn't have any additives. So that one went away, and that was a whole month
They
by
were
month
really,
menu process.
yeah, they were really interested in organic.
Yeah.
You know, all the other things, the fructose syrup and all those things, are all out of the menus. They're all out of anything that we purchased to start with. So that really wasn't an issue. It was kind of how it started. But then they went to organic, and they went to organic eggs, and you know, a lot of different things that were driving costs way up.
Yeah.
And again, like Chris said, you know, it's not ours to say yes or no. It's ours to do diligence and report back to you and say, well, if you want to go with that specifically, it's going to cost X.
Right. And we do have some districts more up north in Vermont that choose to make that investment. But again, you know, that's the whole partnership thing. That's how it works is we find out what the school district wants. We don't say no, we say, okay, this is what it would take to do it. Then the community makes the decision, yeah, that's what we want to go with. No, that's not what we want to go with. We have some school districts doing organic grass-fed beef and all of that kind of stuff. It's their choice to spend their tax dollars that way. It's not for us to decide. What will our menus look like? I did include some sample menus, but I also too wanted to go through the menu process. Because USDA regulations are getting more and more strict almost by the month, we have a very involved, labor-intensive, honestly, menu process to make sure we can give you the highest quality menus, but still consider the local community. So our menus start by being written by a registered dietitian who gets input from my department, Corporate Resources, which does regulatory compliance, works with marketing people, works with some of our culinary floating managers to see what the kids are liking nowadays, and he drafts a standard menu. Those menus, and actually the ones that are included, are the standard menus for September. So if we were to actually put together an RFP, those would be the ones that are in the RFP. From there, that menu goes to the on-site food service director, who can take a look at it and say, okay, my kids in this district don't like meatloaf, so we're going to do something different, this, that, the other. They come back through my office to get checked for regulatory compliance to make sure it's all set for the USDA regulations. Then it's put out onto our website, along with any nutritional information you guys choose to have published there, or any of that kind of stuff. Okay? In addition to just a printed menu, we support this menu. Okay? The food service directors get a lot of resources, everything from made-to-order pasta bars and action stations, which kind of travel around between all the different districts to do some presentation cooking for kids. Taste tests, that we'll do with new items, local items, all of that kind of stuff. Sometimes those are full-blown displays set up in the cafeteria. Sometimes those are just little cups on the line. Hey, you know, we're doing roasted chickpeas next week. Why don't you try a little bit? That kind of thing. Farm fresh focus materials and other marketing materials all help support the menu. Okay. One of the other questions posed by the administration are, what are the portion sizes? I'm sure you've heard to death tonight that the USDA regulates this stuff pretty tightly. And Sherry White and the other ladies from the New Hampshire DOE do a good job of coming out and checking on it. All the portion sizes are done to USDA specifications. Our menus are typically, and they're based on 5 food components, and I don't know if anybody talks about that tonight. I can talk about it if you want, but it's kind of boring. The 5 food components have to be on the tray. Typically, we're putting more items than that on, just usually more fruits and vegetables, usually a little bit bigger on the meat portion because we have that flexibility under the USDA guidelines. And because our menu process is so involved where it's getting checked that whole way through, we can make sure that we can do that and still meet the USDA guidelines, which puts a cap on calories. Okay? In addition to just the main meal, we have a Smart Snacks program in answer to the new regulations coming out next year, which has everything from kettle corn, popcorn that we make ourselves, kale chips, whole wheat chocolate chip cookies, which are actually excellent, We've sourced some smaller ice creams, all of that kind of stuff. Plus the entrees as well, offered it for a full a la carte program. You guys don't have a high school, it's bigger in high schools where you've got a lot of those athletes that are burning 3,000-4,000 calories a day. But you do have, K through 8. And in those middle schools, that middle school range, we'll typically see some need for the smart stacks, that kind of stuff. But it can be available to all grades. It's really, again, depends on the school district's wellness policy, the school administration. We have some school districts where K through 8, yep, some of them, this, that, the other thing. We have some school districts where it's like, nope, we don't want any of these kids to have extras, or, the little kids can have it on Friday, whatever. And it's really all dictated by what the community wants. Okay. What would happen to our current staff? Bill's already touched on it a little bit. Not only do we have a strong presence in this area to begin with, but even when we come into a new district, it makes sense for